Happy Monday to you. I hope you had a great weekend and that you continue to be safe. And ultimately, my hope is that you continue to grow in your relationship with the Lord. This is week 2 of our study of the names of God, and this week we're going to be building on what we learned last week. I've got a lot to cover, so I'm going to get right into it. And we're going to be in the book of Judges, chapter 6. You see, if you remember last week, we looked at the four names of God, the name of God of Creator Elohim, the name of God as the I Am, the self existent one, Jehovah, the name of God, the great Lord Adonai, and then on Thursday we looked at the Yahweh, which is the name of God of I Am, his personal name given to Moses in Exodus 3, verse 14. I want to go back and get the one for Jehovah and help to remind us of what we studied of Jehovah because Jehovah was a name that was given by the Jewish people to God because they did not want to use God's personal name, Yahweh, because it was God's personal name. They did not want to disrespect it. They did not want to misspeak it, and they certainly did not want to profane it. And that's what we talked about Thursday. So instead of using Yahweh, they used Jehovah to speak of God and his presence with them. And this is how we're going to lean in for this week, our final week of studying the names of God. We're going to build on this name of Jehovah, meaning I am. So God is saying, I am something. And this is how we're going to study this week, talking about the names of God. So this week it's Jehovah Shalom, which is Jehovah being I am, Shalom being peace. So we're going to talk about Jehovah Shalom this morning. Israel is a nation who has people want to destroy Israel. And it's the day before the elections when I'm recording this, and people talk about Israel, peace with Israel, backing Israel. Israel has always wanted, people have always wanted Israel to be destroyed. And for centuries they have tried. And for centuries God has blessed them with a supernatural protection. And what Israel wants and what we all want is peace. Peace is the absence of conflict. We want peace in our own life. We want peace for our own soul. We want peace for our nation, and we want peace for the world. And today we're going to be looking at Jehovah Shalom. The Lord is peace, or I am peace. So what does this mean? It means that God defeats our enemies and he brings us peace, not just militarily, but also can be relationally, and most important, I'm going to lean in today, spiritually. God is peace. He sent Jesus to be our Prince of Peace in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. And we have peace with God because of the sacrifice of Christ on the cross. We can have peace and harmony with God because of Jesus' life, his death, and his resurrection. Because God and us, we were at enmity, or we were at conflict with one another because we all do something wrong. And Jesus came to take that punishment and to provide us peace, the absence of conflict between us and God. Let's look at an Old Testament example in Judges chapter 6 now that we know that God is peace. All right, we're going to look at the man of Gideon. Gideon was a judge in Israel, and that is why we're in the book of Judges. See, Gideon was from the weakest tribe or the weakest clan, and he was the weakest member in his entire family. And God gave Gideon a very specific call. It is to lead Israel in the defeat of the Midianites. But Gideon isn't too sure of this calling that God has called him to, so Gideon asks for some specific signs, and God grants him those signs because Gideon is a little bit hesitant. And then Gideon realizes that he has seen and has interacted with God, and he turns and says in verse 22 or 23, I am doomed. I am going to be destroyed because I have been interacting with God. And God reassures him, Gideon, you're not going to die. And Gideon, he desires to remember this moment, and he desires to worship God by creating an altar and naming it Jehovah Shalom, which is God is peace. God is going to bring deliverance. God is going to deliver Israel from their physical enemies from their physical conflict, their military conflict with the Midianites. And Gideon is going to look at this altar as a way of reminding himself that God is going to grant peace. A reminder of God's provision from the enemies, and that God's promise to Gideon that Gideon will achieve peace. Now let's bring this back into our life today. Jehovah Shalom is God defeats our enemies and brings us peace. We saw this physically with Gideon. But more importantly, God is giving us peace with himself through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. And as we start to lean into Thanksgiving, we have much to be thankful for because we have the opportunity to achieve peace with God. Many people today are looking for peace. They're looking for that absence of conflict. And they'll do many things to try to find peace or to stay away from conflict. They'll avoid it. They'll run away from it. They'll pretend it's not there. Sometimes we look to drugs or alcohol to numb the pain from the lack of peace that we have, when ultimately we're looking to have peace with God through Jesus Christ, who is the Prince of Peace. And that can only be achieved through believing in the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus, because that will put us at peace with God, because Jesus came to pay that debt he did not owe. Because we have that debt we cannot pay, therefore we have conflict with God, but Jesus came to pay that debt, so the debt has been paid, and therefore we don't have conflict. We are able to have peace with God, and we are able to lean in and understand Jehovah Shalom, I am peace. Many today are seeking peace, a relaxing of the conflict, or a finishing of the conflict, and we will do anything to achieve it. However, the bigger question I have for you on this Monday morning is, do you have a relationship with the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ? Because many times that's what our heart's desire is. We're searching for peace on the horizontal level in the relationships that we have, when ultimately our heart's cry is that we're searching for peace on that vertical relationship between us and God. And ultimately, we're seeking a peaceful relationship with God. If we get our vertical relationship with God right, many times our horizontal relationships will take care of themselves. But oftentimes, we focus on those horizontal or earthly friendships and neglect the relationship with the God in heaven. If you're searching for peace, perhaps the peace you're looking for is with God today. If I can help you anyway, I hope you'll reach out either privately or comment, and I will get back in contact with you. I hope that you have a great Monday and that you continue to be safe and grow in your relationship with the Lord. I'll see you tomorrow for day 2 of the names of God, specifically Jehovah, I am.